Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase The Barn, episode 16, where we talk about business, Christianity, life, and more. I'm Kyle. That's Gary. Just a reminder, new episodes out every single Wednesday, and you can listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever they're listed. So starting a new series today, we are going to go through this book. It's called Killjoys, The Seven Deadly Sins. Marshall Siegel is the editor. And so there's it's just a book on the seven deadly sins, and so we're just going to each week go through one chapter. And so if you're interested in following along by the book, it's worth it. So the seven deadly sins are pride, envy, anger, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. I got a few different quotes here I want to read, but what did you think about it so far? Did you read? Did you read the first chapter? First couple chapters?
Yeah, I read. I thought even just the introduction had enough content that was wild to talk about.
Story,
yeah, I thought the introduction was really good.
I'll just read this little piece here just to give a brief. Yeah. Actually, no. I'll first read this piece. I mean, it's kind of like I have this. What you focus on grows. I really believe that, and so I was thinking to myself as I was thinking about this series, I'm like, are we just focusing on the wrong thing here? But so I'll start with this. Many people think following Jesus means surrendering our happiness. You can either enjoy a fun, passionate, and exciting life here for a short time, or live a bland, boring, but safe life forever with God. That's a lie. That lie is a quiet but violent concentration camp, fencing men and women in, keeping them away from God, and torturing them with lesser pleasures that only lead to a swift and yet never-ending death. If you ever want to be truly happy, even in this life, surrounded by everything beautiful, fun, and exciting in this world, you want to be found with Jesus.
I had that all underlined as well.
Okay.
Mostly because I grew up just being taught that. Or I wouldn't even say that's not true. I wasn't taught that, but that's definitely my perception, or that's how it looked practically.
Yes.
It looked like people that were people of, religious people or serious people were very boring and not any fun.
Yeah.
Which I think has been disproven to some extent, as I've gotten older and gotten to know some of those people. But I feel like the idea of just trying harder, that.
But it's also our hearts. Like we before we know Jesus, we do think he's boring.
Well, that too. But I think if you grow up in a culture that is pretty legalistic, then in a sense, quickly that it's a very fine line.
Yeah.
Because obviously leading a godly life means a lot of you're not going to be doing a lot of the things that the culture and the world is doing. So how does that play out practically, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that the pendulum can easily swing the other way, where hey, everything's permissible. Paul talks about, and I think so. I can understand why that happens. I just feel like, to me, it was like real joy comes from the Lord, and I think obviously it's only a heart that's turned that's going to really experience that.
But every law that's in the Bible is not just there for the fun of it. It actually will make your life better. Like if you don't steal, your life will be better. Like if you don't, those things. Yeah. Anyway, I'll read what the short definition of these seven deadly sins. Pride puts herself above God. She foolishly and suicidally contends for supremacy with God, opposing him and inviting his wrath. That's the first one. Second one, envy can't help being unhappy at the blessing and fortune of others. She seethes as others succeed and even secretly smiles when they fail. Unrighteous anger viciously attempts to protect a flawed one. She explodes over selfish, irrelevant things and carelessly overlooks the things that offend and dishonor God. Sloth desperately attempts to control in order to preserve her comforts, dreading even being interrupted by the needs of others. She's lazy, sold, bored with God, and doomed to a slow death. Greed overwhelms her victims with an inordinate desire for wealth and possessions. She covets when she shouldn't, or too desperately and impatiently wants what she should. Gluttony looks to food to satisfy some deeper craving, whether for comfort, purpose, or control. She worships food. Lust is a sexual desire that dishonors its object and disregards God. She irrationally seizes sex for selfish gain, believing its pleasures will fill the emptiness she feels. So pride, envy, anger, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust are all woefully inadequate substitutes for the wonder, beauty, and affection of God. At first, hopes or dreams or loves, they are killjoys by comparison to Christ. They will rob you not ravish you. They will numb you, not heal you. They will slaughter you, not save you.
So I found the first chapter fascinating. I mean, he starts off with a C.S. Lewis quote from Screw Tape Letters. And the first chapter is a brief history of iniquity, how the deadly sins became 7, and talks about, basically expounds upon how all sin stems from those. It's not as those are an exhaustive list. And then early on, and I thought this was interesting, just about how he talks about how things that are really awful, get how they're viewed in our culture. And, and it says here, but sin only entertains as long as it is cheered by triviality and flaunted by deliberate ignorance. When sin is identified with devilish rebellion and the myriad disorders that disfigure human experience, such applause is repugnant. Sin, when appropriately named, loses its allure. And so really it's about the fact that many things that, are really wrong have some sense of, have
right to them.
Well, or they're just, there's some attractive creative. And I've said that to my kids too. It's like, there's going to be a lot of things that are, at a first glance, are going to be somewhat tempting, whether it be in our culture or in our world. And it's like, especially, as a young boy, I talked to my oldest boy, he's 10 now. It's like, hey, you're going to have real wisdom and discernment, and really, you're going to have to be strong to flee from all these things.
You talked to him about like at 10 years old about porn and sex and all that stuff already?
Yeah, probably way more lately, just because I'm starting to realize how young kids start to talk about it, right? Yeah. And one of the things, like Marie and I have this program, I'll have another night. I've had a night before at our house where people can watch it. We bought this program. It's called The Birds and the Bees. It's an Instagram feed if people want to follow it. But they do a great job of kind of like explaining how to explain things to your kid, the drip method. I'm more of the fire hose guy. Like, we just sit down and really blast them, but it's just not good. Like, and Marie does an amazing job of that. Yeah. But with my kids, it's like, basically they explain really well how in a family with 4 boys, let's say, and there's a 10-year-old to a 20-year-old, the 10-year-old is much different than my 10-year-old, who's the oldest of 6 and he's 10. Yeah. Right. And so he's hanging out with the same 10-year-old, but he's actually hanging out with a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old at school. And I think people don't realize that. So yeah, like if you get a naive 10-year-old boy like mine, he's probably pretty naive for the most part, right? Other than what he's picked up at our house. But all the things he's learning from the other kids is so, and I guess people that feel uncomfortable talking to their kids about this stuff, I always say, would you rather their friend say it to them for the first time, or would you rather you? So take your pick. And I can assure you, as a guy that used to be a 10-year-old boy, you do not want them hearing about sex for the first time from another 10-year-old boy. Because it's, they're just going to get weird. Like, it just needs to, first of all, be normalized. Like, we grew up in a culture where there's some shame and there's the secrecy.
You just never got talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, we just don't talk about it. Just like all things that are
then for some reason it's fixed.
It's a gift from God. It's healthy. This is where it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. In a marriage, and that's where it works best. So, anyways, that was I found that fascinating, where the book talks about that, and then at the end, I found it the most. I underlined a lot of stuff at the end of that first chapter: 7 sins, 1 hope, and kind of what you were saying, like, what you focus on grows. But at the end of here, it says, our only hope with any sin, however, is to turn to God in Christ. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there's any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And that's from Psalm 139.
It's funny how the Old English triggers me.
Say that again.
It's funny how the Old English words trigger me. Like, even like iniquity. I'm like, what? Like, who says that word? It's sin. Anyway, so I don't.
And then here it says,
but what do you like about that?
Well, just that the hope comes from the Lord, and for us it goes on to say we must lean, just super practical advice. Like, this is the most practical advice. When people say to me, hey, how do you avoid sin? It's like, we must lean on close Christian friends who know us well and can help us repent, confess, and believe in the goodness and lovingness of Christ, our Savior. Most of all, we must remember that those who trust in Jesus are no longer under sin's domain, but under the reign of Christ. And then, and so what does that look like, right? Like, does that look like no sinning? No. But, it should look different than the person that's not.
Well, I think the key thing is there when you do sin, because you will, as a Christian, you'll keep on sinning, is like, are you hiding it? Or are you talking about it with your friends? Are you like, are you being real about it? Or are you just like minimizing it and keep it to yourself? And,
And then the very last line is a quote from John Owen. What we mustn't do is nothing. All sin is deadly. As John Owen said, be always, this is Old English, be always at it whilst you live. Cease not.
Always be killing sin, or sin will be killing you.
Yeah. from this work, be killing sin or it will be killing you. And so it is a battle. And so the book talks about that too. And I think that, Ken Dick says it really well in Freedom Sessions too. When people say they're struggling with sin, it's like, where's the battle scars? Like, show me the battle scars. You're not struggling. You're just capitulating. Right. And so it's like, I thought it was good. I'm interested to see
what the other ones are.
Yeah.
Once you get, I didn't love the intro. I like the chapters the most. I usually skip the intro of most books and just get right into the chapters.
I like the intro.
Okay.
The minute I was done the intro, I read this like pretty last minute, as I do with most things, and I'm like,
Did my text to remind you help?
No, I didn't. No, I just annoyed me because I knew that I was not meeting your needs. I meeting your expectation. I knew that you knew that I had not read it. I could feel it.
I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure you did.
Make sure I need to read it.
Yeah, I want to be ready.
Protocol.
Okay.
I had an interesting experience this week.
What?
Well, those that are listening, because if you're like me, you don't ever watch anything on YouTube. I got no wedding ring on.
Oh.
I went out for lunch yesterday.
I didn't know I was supposed to notice that, but
no, well, you're not. It's all the ladies that are looking to see if I'm single or not are going to notice.
So you're making that clear now.
No, what I'm saying is it was fascinating. I lost it and never even knew it came off my hand. I have not taken it off in 14 years.
Wow.
And I'm at lunch yesterday with some clients, and all of a sudden I'm like, guys, I don't have my wedding ring on. They're not thinking anything of it because lots of guys don't wear their wedding ring for whatever reason. It's like, but I've never taken it off since the day I've been married, and just came right off my finger.
It's lost?
It's gone. So if you do happen to watch this and you see a wedding ring, I'll even take one that's not mine. I don't care. Which reminds me, I got a funny story about that. Can I rabbit trail?
Yes.
Yeah. Did I ever told you about all the wedding rings I bought for my wife? The engagement rings?
No.
So like I had it when, this is just what's funny, because I was talking to her last night. I was, saying, hey, I got to get a new wedding ring. I was trying to find one on Marketplace. I'm happy to take a used one. Any free, if you have a free one from an old person. Anyways, Marie and I, when we were dating, we knew very early on we were going to get married, but I was super cheap, as I am now. And I had a good friend of mine, a lady that I knew through something I was involved in. Her older lady friend had passed away, and she had got her engagement ring and wedding ring, and they were beautiful. And I thought, like, hey, I'll buy them. So I bought them for a good deal, and I'm thinking we're going to get engaged at some point here, me and Maria. I better have it handy, right? Well, Maria and I go on a family holiday with my family, and we're driving back from this holiday, and I thought, the wise part of me thought I should just bring it up and just do a soft test here, how she's going to feel about it. So I brought it up and said, like, how would you feel, like, hypothetically, if would you be okay wearing a deceased person's engagement ring? Well, Marie's pretty easy going. She came unhinged on me. Like, that was our first big fight in our relationship. The story gets way worse. I'm like, no, this can't be. I'm doing my sales talk, trying to convince her it's not a big deal. It's just I'm digging, right?
It's funny how you ask the question for her opinion, and then you try to, like, don't like her answer, try to convince her.
Well, that's my whole life. It's like, and that's part of one of my shortcomings. But anyway, so I'm like working on her, and she's just getting madder and madder. She's like 19, 18 years old, doesn't have strong opinions on a lot of things, but definitely not wearing a dead person's ring, right? So I'm like, oh, shoot. So I'm like, oh, I got to get the right one. So I put that one in the safe or whatever, safety deposit box, go straight to town and buy a brand new one for a lot of money from a total shyster guy too. But anyways, brand new, buy this ring. Time goes on. This is like probably within a week, because I'm very impulsive. The next, a few months later, like, we're thinking of maybe getting engaged at some point. We've talked about it. I can't remember if I'd asked her dad. The first time I asked her dad, he said no. So can't remember where it was in there. But anyways, I go and she's like, oh, I'd like to go wedding ring shopping. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll oblige, right? Fair enough. I didn't really realize that was important to a girl. Yeah. You can tell I'm going to make great husband material here with this story. So we go wedding shopping. Well, every single ring she looks at, none of them are similar anywhere near the design that I got. Not similar. And I don't know how much I spent, but it was probably $3,000 or $4,000 at least. It was a lot of money to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm pulling her arm, like, hey, how about this kind over here? Like, it's a little more similar to what I bought. She's like, no, Gary, like, I like these over here. Like, you got to buy one yet? Like, why wouldn't you just get what I want? Like, what? She's just really struggling, right? I'm like, son of a beater. So that's ring number 2 in the safe. I go buy her a third ring. So I sold the first ring pretty quickly to somebody. And then the second one, I actually just sold probably 2 years ago. I sold this. What? Yeah, it's to some lady on Marketplace. I met her at the Home Sense in Abbotsford. And
you just sat in your safe forever?
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, well, it was just hard to sell. It's hard to sell jewelry. Like, it's hard to sell. Like, I don't care how valuable the diamonds or what the appraisal is. Like, good luck. So anyways, I bought 3. Anne Marie's pretty special. So to buy 3 engagement rings for her is not a big deal, but it's just pretty funny. What made me think of that? The fact that I lost my ring yesterday. So
Yeah. Nice. Okay, moving on. U.S. election. I know you love the U.S. politics and election stuff like that. Do you follow it at all?
I'm on Twitter. I follow a lot of investment stuff on Twitter and some political stuff. And I know that President Trump was driving a dump truck.
Oh, yes, he was,
to take out the garbage.
Joe Biden called his followers garbage, and so he
called all of Puerto Rico garbage.
No, he had a
Tony did.
Yeah.
I did watch that whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
Mostly because I watched first some clips showed up, because I follow all sides of the political spectrum, and some clips showed up of the one very popular Democrat, and I think it was Vice President Tim Walz. They were watching it, and critiquing it. Yeah, critiquing the comedian. Anyways, I like comedy.
This is getting recorded on the 31st.
Yeah.
And so it's coming out the day after the election. Who do you think's going to win?
I think the Democrats are going to win.
Okay.
Is that the wrong answer?
I don't know what the right answer is. How do you know?
You don't know.
I do know there seems to be a lot more energy in the positive side for Trump than it seems to be for Kamala, but I don't know what those guys do.
It's because of who you follow, and it's because of the vortex that you're in.
Yeah.
It's because of the algorithm,
I do
right?
wonder, I do wonder
the algorithm.
That.
Like people...
I actually have this...
What you focus on grows. It's the same thing on Facebook and Twitter. Like if you start following people and you have your likes, like... Have you ever watched The Social Network? The documentary, The Social Network?
Yes.
Terrifying.
Yes.
All parents should watch the
Yeah. But what's funniest about that is he says in there, he brought light to this issue and stuff like that, and nobody changed. Everyone kept doing the same thing. I think
there's change happening. It's very, very slow, but I think that even our generation, especially, or even the next generation, there is huge pushback. I mean, you're the one that's preaching the lockbox. Like, I think people are starting to realize that they need to get away from the digital interaction, and even like just reading this book. I think it's just healthy to read a book. And my wife, Marie, does it really well. She'll read books, and I do too. And I actually prefer, like, I'll listen to books while I'm driving, but I would prefer to actually read. I don't know why, but I prefer to read a book.
Yeah. I always thought like that. I've never been a big reader. I did read in my early 20s quite a bit, and I kind of stopped again. But I realized when I was, completely unplugged there for 4 days that I was just reading more.
Well, you had nothing to do but read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the evenings, it's like, why would I be wasting my time?
Don't you find it's the best way to put you to sleep too?
Yes.
The best way to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't pick up a super interesting novel,
or listen to an old English preacher,
anything I listen to, like even financial podcasts, will put me to sleep.
Put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Books definitely make me pretty tired pretty quick.
Great way to.
Okay. Proverb of the week. There is more hope for fools than people who think they are wise, which I found was super encouraging for me.
Me too. I'm guessing there's a hidden meaning to that verse that we're not getting.
I actually wondered that about a whole bunch of these proverbs, but they're proverbs and fun to talk about. So there's more hope for fools than people who think they are wise. Why is it that?
Well, because you're teachable.
Yes.
Because you're teachable. If you're not teachable, you're in deep trouble. It does not matter how quote unquote smart or
so. What do you think it practically looks like when someone thinks they're wise? And they just don't
it's
ask
the thinking that
never
they're
ask
wise.
for advice.
If you talk to somebody who's humble, who's older, they will always say that they know way less now than they ever have in their life. Because as you get older and you learn more, you learn how much there is to learn.
Yeah, well, they'll say that, but will they actually take advice from somebody?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. People ask. I mean, I for sure ask more advice now than I did when I was 20. And I would either not ask the advice because I already knew what the answer was going to be. And a lot of people fall in that camp. A lot of people feel like I met somebody today, and I think people feel like they're a burden or they're, just inconveniencing someone. But like most of the time, you don't even need to be talking to a smart person, and just talking to someone, you'll come up with a better answer than if you didn't talk to anybody. And that's what people don't realize. Like, we're created to be in community and kind of engaging with each other. And it's amazing how much pain and suffering you can avoid if you could just say your thoughts out loud to somebody instead of rolling around in your own head, right?
Or people also don't want to be weak, right? People who think that asking for help or asking for advice is like makes them, be lesser than or something like that. So they don't want to, like, that's what a big reason why people don't get coaches and stuff like that when, a lot of people could really use it. It's because they don't want to, for some reason it gives them the idea that they
are struggling.
They're
only struggling when they ask for help.
Have an
most
area
people
where
just struggle all by themselves.
Yeah.
They do.
Because they don't want to be portrayed as weak or
Can
whatever.
you read the verse one more time?
There is more hope for fools than people who think they are wise. So if you're a fool,
no, you won't even know you are. I mean, that's the problem. That's not how it works.
Okay. Anyways,
you can't talk directly to they'll assume that you're
fool?
talking to someone else. So there must be a few dummies that listen to this thing. I know it's not me.
Okay.
Trust me, if you're listening.
Okay. I'm doing the Furiously Curious coaching as the show sponsor. It's been 3 weeks running now. This is the last week I'm doing this. So hopefully we can get started with a bunch of more guys here shortly. So I help overworked business owners, leaders, executives succeed without sacrificing on faith, family, and free time. So what does that look like? Like, what are the things that you're dealing with? Not enough time, one more email, one more call, one more job, one more sale. Your health is suffering from it. Don't have time. Marriage is suffering. Faith life is suffering. And so this 10-week coaching program will change your life. I'm going to read just a testimonial here a second. This is Jacob Stocklogger from Stockloggers Greenhouse in Dayton, Ohio. He's the president and owner. He said, prior to the 10-week course with Kyle, my day-to-day thought process was filled with uncertainty on the decisions I was making. Kyle gave me insight and direction on being a confident leader I was looking to become. Growing up in a family business, we have our core way of doing things. It was refreshing to have someone to talk with that had an outside perspective. Kyle was able to help me see differently with the conversations we had during the time. I did not know what I was looking for in this course, but making the decision was a life-changing experience. And so it's not that I changed his life, it's just that good questions give clarity on which direction you want to go and the challenges that are in the way. So if you want your life changed, business owner, want to make things better, text the word interested to 604-703-9045. We'll have a chat, see if it's a good fit or not. And,
do you have a money back guarantee?
I do, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Always offer it.
Is that advertised anywhere? I've never seen it on your stuff.
It's on my website.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. I believe it's on my website. I have a new website, furiouslycurious.co, if you guys want to check it out.
So if someone feels like they got ripped off, you'd say, hey.
Yeah, no one's had it yet.
Okay.
All very, very happy.
Most people know about it, so.
Yeah. But yeah, it is full money back guarantee. I mean, it's cheap for what you get, for what I charge and stuff like that, for the value you get back. So,
okay.
Yeah. Mailbag question from a listener. I'm interested in hearing about, I do have a question that I'm interested in hearing about. I am curious about the different points to be made for adult baptism versus infant baptism. I just had a baby girl, so baptism is at the forefront of my concerns at the moment, and I'm not convinced one way or the other. Thanks. Well, you're talking to two Baptists, not Paedo-Baptists, former Paedo-Baptists. I'm not an expert on this, but
no, I'm not either.
We'll talk about it.
I know that I've intentionally tried to understand infant baptism because obviously when I was a kid, it was just kind of that's what was happening. I never felt like there was great arguments for it, other than there was a lot. I mean, it's obviously, and there again, I mean, there's people that are very well versed in this. If this person's they asked the question, so they should definitely reach out to me personally, and I will get them in touch with someone that can explain it really, really well. That's very well versed. But my personal journey has been that I have tried to disprove believers' baptism, so to speak, or at least, like some people I respect and love deeply hold very tight to infant baptism, and I think I just perpetually read scripture, and I have a whole list in my phone, so I could email that to the person too. But every time I'm just like, how could you read this verse and baptize a baby? How could you take this and think, hey, we should just be baptizing all babies of families? And I even had a Dutch Reformed pastor one time who's a great guy, and I asked him about it too. And he did say to me, his words were, if you just read the New Testament, you would not come up with, and of course he's talking about, the connection, but really, really basic things where.
I just see it that, I've always seen that there was great, well-known, very highly respected Christians on both sides of the aisle.
And there is.
Growing up, we would read both writers and stuff like that, like R.C. Sproul and MacArthur.
They did a debate on YouTube. You can watch it. It's pretty interesting. I would highly recommend to watch that. You can Google it.
I remember my dad actually watching it, and he said after MacArthur went first for adult baptism, and my dad saying after the first half, he was like, "Oh shit," because he had some really good points, and then he listened to Sproul's thing on infant baptism, and I mean, I think it goes. I don't have a strong opinion on one way or the other. Sorry, go ahead. I will say if it's an infant Baptist church, and you're not a Christian, you're not saved, you shouldn't be baptizing your kids. You shouldn't even be allowed to be a member.
You definitely shouldn't be doing profession of faith if you're not saved. That part I struggle with.
Exactly.
I don't understand how you can do a profession of faith and not be a believer.
But also, if you say you're not a believer, then why would you want to baptize your kids? What's the you hate Jesus, you hate God, you hate
then it's box checking. Then you're in deep trouble. So any of us, no matter what our stance is, no matter what religious practices we take, however we feel about life, need to be doing things from the heart. That we know for sure.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that, if you read the Bible, you read, it's more than one spot. It says believe and be baptized. And the baptism babies does not. So I also don't like it that it takes as much airtime as it does.
Cut it, Rhett. No.
No, because it's
yes, I agree with you.
It's definitely a tier 2 issue or a secondary issue. It's not a salvation issue. And the fact that people are in those weeds when their family members are lost and people are struggling and people are starving and you're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We can all agree that people, like you said it best, there's Christians land on all areas of this thing as many other things eschatology and all these things. And I just feel like Christians really get in the weeds, and you don't do a favor to our cause by being divisive about it and spending these people that aren't Christians are just what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So it is important. I'm not saying it's not important. I just feel like it's not of utmost importance, right?
I will say, having been sprinkled as a kid and then baptized as an adult.
Yeah, that's challenging. Was it a struggle for you?
No.
Okay.
As an adult, when it was my own decision, and I did it, and I carried a lot of significance. It was pretty special, and I did feel convicted to do it. And
can you answer me maybe this question? Jesus got circumcised, right?
Yeah.
And then he went and got baptized as an adult.
Oh.
By John the Baptist.
Never thought of that.
No, you have thought of that.
No, I haven't.
Well, then then you can think about it, because that was going to be my question. How would, as an infant Baptist, what would you say to that? Why would you say Jesus got baptized as an adult? Why wouldn't he got baptized as a baby?
I guess it's the new covenant or old covenant or some talk.
Okay. Anyways,
I don't know. It goes above my head. Yeah.
Anyways, the thing is there again, I always struggle with stuff like that. I understand it's really important for people, but I just feel like you want to be careful. You want to be careful where you expend a lot of your energy. And I think ultimately, if you are praying about it and you're in the Word, the truth will be revealed. And that's everybody's call. You could listen to 1,000 different opinions from 1,000 different people and come up with all these things, and none of that actually matters.
Yeah, I don't know why you're giving it so much airtime right now.
Don't get that many questions.
Okay, random question. Okay, changing the subject here.
Hopefully not about Halloween.
What belief do you hold with which many people disagree? Is there anything that you have an opinion on that most people are like, bro?
Yeah, I don't totally agree with fishing, with catch and release fishing.
You're pulling my leg.
I'm dead serious.
Okay, talk to me about this.
Well, I'm just told you.
What's catch with fishing like? You're
just doesn't feel that kind to fish.
I didn't know you cared so much about fish.
I just don't believe in torturing animals. I'm totally fine killing animals.
You had your share of torturing animals, by the way. Didn't you drag a dead sheep for a while or something?
Yeah, but it was dead.
Oh, fair enough.
It was a goat.
That was a goat? We'll tell that story in overtime.
Another time, in overtime. I'll tell it in overtime.
Okay.
Yeah. I just do not agree with torturing animals, and I just feel like putting a hook in an animal's mouth and pulling it around the Fraser River for an hour. And I went sturgeon fishing in the last 2 years. Yeah. I'm going to for sure lose half our listener base right here. People are like,
it was definitely a good answer to the question. That is an opinion a lot of people disagree with.
No, they don't disagree with it. They've just never thought about it.
I wish we could do a poll.
You can do a poll. Instagram story.
Yes, something like that.
If you really think about it, if you spend some time thinking about it, not your instant answer, does it seem cruel to put a hook in a fish's mouth and tow it around a 900-pound fish for an hour, take a picture with it, and then let it go again?
Yeah, I guess I don't feel as...
You just haven't thought about it. It's totally fine. Anyways, most people disagree with me. You asked, I said the answer.
Okay. Okay, what else do we got here? No, I think that's it. We're gonna head into overtime. We might tell a story
May
of
or may not.
Gary.
May or may not.
But there is some overtime 14. We talk about made up cultural Christian rules. Episode 13, I just to share my story on psychedelics therapy. Did mushrooms, MDMA, psilocybin, and got therapy on that. To share that story. Talk about doing lie detector tests for church leaders in episode 12. So patreon.com/furiously curious. You can watch those episodes. It's $5 a month.
I feel like we should have talked about Luther and the Reformation today. How come we did not talk about the Reformation?
Oh,
we don't need to. I'm not well versed enough, but I just read a lot of quotes today from Luther. And
yeah, let me see here. Actually, I had
he gets quoted quite a bit at our church.
Memes this morning. Stop coming up and saying trick or treat. I said I have 95 theses, not 95 Reese's.
I like Reese's. Okay.
What happens every time I drink a German beer and read the book of Romans? 95 theses. I've got 95 problems, but earning my salvation ain't one of them.
Nice.
Anyways,
nice.
There were some Luther memes I was thinking about posting this morning that I never did. So, but anyways, Patreon, support the show.
He's anti-Semitic too, right?
And he believed in transubstantiation.
Actually? Okay, I got to do some more digging later.
Which means that he believed that, during the Lord's Supper or whatever people call it, communion.
Are you sure he believed that? It's a pretty bold claim. You're saying that
99.9.
95% sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. It was the one thing he disagreed on with somebody else. Yeah, he held on to that one. So,
anyways, as I've always said, things you're taught in your youth and your childhood
stick with
you, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly. So to seek truth is important.
So wear a skirt.
And where is the truth? In the Word. Okay. Off to overtime. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of The Briefcase in the Barn. As always, really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with social media, any of that stuff. It helps a lot. Also, if you like the content and you're benefiting from it and wouldn't mind supporting the show, patreon.com/furiously curious. I'll put a link in the description as well, or you can find that link in any of my social media bios. You also get access to overtime episodes that way. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.